My father cut me from his will for his new wife, but I exposed her fraud and lies, leaving her with nothing. So, here's the deal. My name's Alex, I'm 25, and a few years ago, my life was pretty standard. My dad wasn't father of the year, but we got along, and my mom was the glue holding it together. She passed away a few years back. Yeah, it was tough, but life moves on, right? Then came Amanda, my dad's new love. A woman half his age, with a smile so fake you could almost hear it squeak, the kind from toothpaste ads. She played the perfect stepmom, like she was auditioning for a cheesy sitcom. At first I thought, fine, Dad's lonely, let him have this. But it became obvious Amanda wasn't just here to play house. She was here for business. She was sinking her perfectly manicured claws into my dad's wallet and his brain. It was like a slow-motion car crash, fascinating if it wasn't my family being wrecked. Things started small. Dad still asked about my life, showed up at my games back in the day, and pretended to care when I got promoted. But as Amanda settled in, Dad's attention faded like a bad memory. Suddenly, my successes were old news. I'd mention a project at work, and he'd nod, barely there, while Amanda beamed her fake smile. Soon, my dad wasn't just ignoring me. He was treating me like a distant acquaintance. Amanda? She was thriving, turning my dad into her puppet, with that blank look of adoration stuck on his face. Then came the big blow. One day, I'm in Dad's office, once ours, now hers, and he drops the bomb. I'm out of the will. Gone. Everything's going to Amanda. I saw red. It was like a gut punch, like being thrown out of a plane without a parachute. For a moment, I thought I'd lose it. Who does that? Who erases their own kid like an old chalkboard note because a new face with bright lipstick and a fake smile showed up? Dad didn't even look sorry. He seemed to expect applause, as if cutting me out was some grand gesture. It felt like a bad joke, with me as the punchline. But I'm not the kind of guy who just fades away. Sure, Amanda thought she'd won. Sure, Dad was too far gone to see her manipulation. But if they thought I'd just roll over and disappear, they clearly didn't know me. I was fuming, practically shaking with rage, when I found out that everything, my family's assets, the business, the house, was now officially Amanda's. And me? I was left with nothing. It felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under me and then kicked me in the gut. My own dad had handed over our entire legacy to a woman he barely knew. Congratulations, Dad. You replaced your son with a Barbie doll. I couldn't just let it go. So I did the responsible thing. I stormed over to my dad's office, hoping there was some kind of mistake. Maybe he'd explain it away. A mix-up, outdated paperwork, anything. But no, of course not. The minute I spoke, he gave me this cold, detached stare, like I was some annoying insect. Listen, Dad, I said, barely containing my anger. What's going on? You're just giving her everything? What about me? What about... He cut me off, looking at me like I was the problem. You're being selfish, Alex, he said, like I was the one throwing away family for a pretty face. Amanda's been there for me, supported me. Something you wouldn't understand. You're stuck in the past. Oh, right. Because family now meant whoever was making Dad's coffee and sweet-talking him. I couldn't believe it. It was like I had vanished from his world. Like I wasn't even his kid. I felt this strange, cold emptiness in my chest. Like my heart had been replaced with a block of ice. I was staring at a stranger with my last name. But I wasn't about to just give up. If Amanda wanted to play the perfect wife, fine. If my dad wanted to be clueless, whatever. I was going to find out exactly who she was. No way was I letting some gold digger walk in and take my family's legacy without knowing her secrets. So, I made a decision. If my dad couldn't see the truth, I'd make him see it. I was going to dig up every rumor, every hidden secret she thought was safe. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And if Amanda thought she could just take over like she owned the place, she had another thing coming. I went full detective mode. If Amanda thought she could just waltz off with my family's fortune, she was wrong. So I did what any self-respecting son would do. I started digging into her past, and wow, there was a lot to uncover. Amanda's closet was packed with more skeletons than a Halloween store. I started online, naturally. A few late-night searches turned into a full-blown investigation, and soon I was combing through the darkest corners of social media and online forums. Amanda's Past, a bad reality show with a new season every year. Turns out, my dad wasn't her first victim. She'd been playing her helpless damsel act for years. She had a history that would make a Vegas card shark look tame. Marriages, more than I could count on one hand. Each ending with Amanda walking away richer and her exes a whole lot poorer. She'd perfected the art of flashing a smile, shedding a tear, and calling the divorce lawyer at just the right moment. It was impressive, if it wasn't so sickening. And the money? She knew exactly where to find it. I found records, hidden settlements, secret payouts, and gifts from former husbands that made my stomach churn. She was like a gamer breezing through on easy mode, while I was stuck on the hardest difficulty. Worst of all, she was a master at covering her tracks. But a few old friends, people she'd likely forgotten, were more than willing to talk with a bit of persuasion. "So, whatever happened to Amanda?" I'd ask casually. The stories were straight out of a cheesy crime drama. Fraud, scams, manipulation. She was like a magician, making money disappear from her ex's accounts and pop up in hers. Every new detail was fuel on the fire. My anger wasn't just simmering, it was boiling over. Each fact, every shady move, made me want to hurl my laptop across the room. She'd been playing this game for years, and now my dad was just her latest target. But if Amanda thought she was the only one who knew how to play dirty, she was in for a surprise. This was just the beginning, and I was ready to take my investigation further. Amanda might have been the queen of manipulation, but she was about to meet her match. I had the dirt, all right. Enough to make Amanda's house of cards come crashing down. But there was a huge problem. My dad was deep under her spell. I could have waved a neon sign with "Amanda is a fraud," and he'd just shrug it off. She had him wrapped around her finger, and a simple confrontation wouldn't cut it. So I did what anyone desperate would. I hired a private investigator. If Amanda thought I'd just sit back, she had no clue what she was up against. I needed undeniable proof to shatter my dad's illusions. Enter Rick, the PI. He looked like he'd stepped out of an old detective movie. Cheap suit, cigarette smell, the works. "You want the scoop on this lady?" he asked, raising a skeptical brow. "Hell yeah," I replied. "Every scandal, every dirty secret." He grinned like he'd just found an easy mark. Deal made. At first, things were going great. Rick was feeding me updates. He'd found more of Amanda's exes, uncovered suspicious transactions, and even got hold of some revealing emails. But then, things got weird. It was a late Thursday night. Prime thinking time. I was in my room, sorting through Rick's findings, when I heard a creak. The kind that makes your neck hair stand up. I froze, eyes darting to the hallway. There was Amanda, creeping into my room like a ghost, rummaging through my stuff. What was she hoping to find? My diary. "Looking for something, Amanda?" I asked, my voice slicing through the silence. She jumped, spinning around with a fake innocent smile. "Oh, I didn't see you," she said, trying to act casual. "Sure, and I'm the Queen of England. I didn't buy it, but I played along. If she was sneaking around, it meant I was getting too close. I couldn't afford to tip her off. So I pretended to believe her excuse about needing a charger and gave her a sweet fake smile. "No problem. Just ask next time, okay?" I said. She nodded, flashing her Barbie grin, but I saw the unease in her eyes. She knew I didn't believe her, and I knew she wasn't done snooping. Game on. If Amanda thought she could outsmart me, she was in for a nasty surprise. I needed to stay 2 steps ahead. One slip and she'd have the upper hand. But if I played this right, she was finished. Rick, my trusty private eye, delivered big time. The dossier he handed over was pure gold, or, better yet, pure dirt. Amanda's entire shady history was exposed, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Financial fraud? Check. Faking accusations to squeeze settlements from ex-husbands? Double check. Suspicious real estate deals? Absolutely. It was the kind of dirt that could destroy her reputation. Rick even had photos. Grainy shots of Amanda at fancy restaurants with lawyers who looked like they belonged in Sleazy Scammers Anonymous. The transactions? Enough red flags to fill a parade. There was no way my dad could ignore this. But then, Amanda struck back. Fast. One moment, I'm holding the ultimate document, ready to shove it under my dad's nose, and the next, I'm in the middle of a smear campaign. Amanda was spinning lies faster than a politician in election season. She played my dad perfectly, claimed I was after the money, that I couldn't stand to see him happy, that I was some greedy brat stuck in the past. She even hinted I was stalking her, digging into her life like a creep. Okay, she wasn't completely wrong. But if it's the truth, it's not stalking, right? Dad ate it up. Suddenly, every talk was about respect and gratitude, with Amanda nodding along like some angel. The more she whispered, the more he believed, and our fragile relationship fell apart. I tried showing him the dossier, my ace in the hole, but he refused to look. He dismissed it as just more jealousy. Every word I said, every attempt to explain, only drove him further away. It was like he was sinking into quicksand, and the more I pulled, the deeper he went. At one point, he told me he was disappointed in me. Right, because I'm the problem here, not the woman draining his bank account while he grins like a fool. The whole situation was almost comical, if it wasn't so sad. I had the evidence, but Amanda got to him first. She twisted everything until up was down, turning me into the bad guy bullying poor Amanda. And just like that, it was over. My dad, my own dad, chose her over me. Our relationship was shattered, and I stood there with a pile of evidence that meant nothing to anyone but me. If Amanda thought she'd won, she was wrong. This wasn't about reconciliation anymore, this was war. I decided it was time for a real confrontation, face to face. No more dodging or passive-aggressive dinners. This needed to be undeniable. So I texted my dad, asking him to meet at a local cafe, neutral ground. If he thought we were just catching up, he was in for a surprise. The cafe was a cozy, trendy downtown spot. Mismatched chairs, artsy lights. Perfect for breaking someone's reality. Dad came in, relaxed, expecting another, "I messed up" chat. Not this time. I started with small talk, then slid the folder across the table. His brows furrowed, not expecting that. "What's this?" he asked, opening it. His face turned pale as he skimmed the pages faster, searching for an escape. "Dad," I said, steady. "This is the real Amanda. Her lies, scams, it's all there." I leaned back, arms crossed, watching him unravel. For a moment he looked ready to break. His hands shook as he set the papers down. "This can't be true," he whispered. I had him cornered, but it wasn't going to be that simple. Amanda's lies had him too tightly wound. The next few days were silent. My dad vanished, likely holed up at home with the evidence. Amanda, however, moved quickly. Soon I was hit with a defamation lawsuit. She was desperate. At first I almost laughed, suing me for telling the truth. But desperate people are dangerous. She hoped to scare me into silence. Too bad for her, I had evidence. Rick's work was airtight. My folder wasn't just convincing, it was bulletproof. My dad might be in denial, but the courts wouldn't be. I countered her lawsuit with my avalanche of proof. Court dates came, lawyers circled, chaos followed. But Amanda's case was dismissed quickly. The judge barely looked at my evidence before throwing it out. She left looking crushed, like she'd been told Santa wasn't real. As for my dad, it took a few more days. When he finally called, his voice was cracked, lost, like someone waking from a nightmare. Amanda's attack had failed. Now it was only a matter of time before the rest of her scheme unraveled. My dad finally had his wake-up call. After days of silence and denial, he called with a cracked, defeated voice, saying, "Alex, you were right. I'm sorry." I almost dropped the phone. It was like a zombie apologizing for eating your brain. Unexpected, too late, and a bit pathetic. But hey, he'd finally snapped out of Amanda's spell. 2 days later, I got a text. "It's over. I kicked her out." I drove over, half expecting Amanda to be raging on the lawn, but she was gone. Only the scent of her expensive perfume lingered. Dad looked like a man who'd lived with a snake for years, tired, broken, but free. There was satisfaction, but it didn't taste as sweet as I imagined. I'd won. Amanda was out, exposed, and Dad saw the truth. But the victory felt hollow, like winning ashes. His apology felt scripted. The damage was done, and regret couldn't fix years of neglect for his gold-digger Barbie. Still, I wasn't letting Amanda come back. Dad and I went into damage control mode, cutting off all ties, emails, bank accounts, phone numbers. We closed every loophole, locked every door. She wasn't just out of the house. She was out of his life. Amanda didn't go quietly. Weeks later, I got a desperate email full of thinly veiled threats and bad manipulation attempts. "I know secrets your father wouldn't want revealed," she wrote, trying to sound intimidating. Sure, Amanda. Her threats were like a toothless dog barking. Loud, annoying, but harmless. She had no one left to listen to her sob story. Her reputation was destroyed. The court case, the failed smear campaign, the mountain of evidence, it all worked. She was a social pariah, and if she tried to come back, she'd hit a wall she couldn't climb. I didn't reply. What was the point? She was ruined, and I wasn't wasting my breath. Dad tried to mend our relationship, but honestly, it was too late. I helped him rebuild his life, but our bond would never be the same. Amanda had left scars that would last. And you know what? I didn't feel bad. She played the game, and she lost. Now, it was time for me to move on, leaving Amanda and her empty threats in the rearview mirror where they belonged. Amanda was done. Like stick a fork in it done. She had nothing left. No cushy house, no access to my dad's wallet, and no one left to manipulate. Watching her fall from grace was almost like watching a train wreck, if you could slow it down and enjoy every painful second of it. Meanwhile, my dad, humbled and finally seeing things clearly, did the one thing that was long overdue. He rewrote his will, putting everything back the way it should have been in the first place. My inheritance, my future, everything Amanda had tried to swipe was now back in my hands. But you know what? It didn't feel the way I thought it would. Sure, I'd gotten back what was mine, and my dad was acting like he was ready to play the world's best dad role again. But something was broken. That bond we had? It was like a shattered mirror. No matter how much you try to put the pieces together, the cracks are always there. We got along better now, sure. We'd have dinner sometimes, laugh at old stories, pretend like everything was normal. But deep down I couldn't forget that he'd chosen her over me, not just once, but over and over, until reality slapped him in the face. So I did what any sensible person would do when they've had enough of family drama. I packed up and got out of Dodge. I left the small-town gossip, the judgmental stares, and the haunted memories behind. New city, new start. I wasn't running away. I was moving on. And yeah, I made damn sure to pick a place far enough away that Amanda's drama and my dad's guilt couldn't follow. Call it self-preservation with style. My dad stayed in the old house, trying to pick up the pieces of his life that Amanda had scattered. He apologized a few more times and we kept in touch, but the damage was done. I mean, I wasn't about to cut him out of my life, but I wasn't about to bend over backwards to play the perfect son, either. If he wanted a relationship, it was on my terms now, not his. I'd be polite, I'd be friendly, but that deep blind trust? That was gone. My new life in the city? Let's just say it was exactly what I needed. I got a decent job, made some new friends, and for the first time in forever, I felt like I was in control. No one was pulling my strings, no one was hovering over my shoulder with hidden motives. It was freedom, and I grabbed onto it with both hands. Amanda's shadow still lingered in the back of my mind, though. Not in a haunting, oh, I'll never be the same kind of way. More like a life lesson, a reminder. She was the textbook definition of how easy it is to let your guard down and get played if you're not careful. A slick smile, a few well-placed lies, and suddenly you're giving away everything that matters to you. My dad learned that the hard way, and I watched it all unfold like some twisted soap opera. So yeah, I moved on, but I didn't forget. You can bet I'll never let someone like Amanda get that close again. I've got a good life now. A real one. Built on my own terms, not stolen by some manipulative wannabe queen. My dad's back home, figuring out how to live without a puppet master pulling his strings, and I'm here, in my new city, carving out a life that's mine and mine alone. It might not have been the perfect happy ending, but it was a win, and I'll take that any day. Sometimes, success isn't about fixing the past. It's about cutting your losses and starting fresh, with all the lessons you never wanted to learn tucked away for safekeeping.